Today, I'm going to show you how I'm building my community OS. So if you don't know me, I'm Luke. I'm the wizard at Skool. I've been helping Synthesizer and Synthesizer Scaling with their launch, as well as the first cohort, which generated over 3 million in client revenue. And now I'm part of the 100, which is a competition to earn as much revenue with communities as possible. So I've been in the community game for quite some time, and I've been learning a few things. And I want to share how I'm organizing the backend for when I am helping other communities grow and scale. So you're probably familiar with the attract, convert, and deliver framework, because this is pretty basic in terms of what like businesses do. In business, it's usually called marketing, sales, and operations. Um, but this is what I've been hearing mostly in when we're talking about the community framework. And what I want to walk you specifically through is how we can gather data for attract, convert, deliver in order so we can actually scale our communities. Because if we're not measuring what is happening, then like how can we improve this? And whether you're using like Notion, personally, that's my choice because I get to like keep everything together and I have the transcriptions and I have the databases and I have like everything in one place and have AI look over it. And I don't have to switch between like Claude and ChatGPT and Gemini because like the models keep changing and sometimes it's use Claude, it's the best thing. And then like, oh, ChatGPT came up with like a whole new thing. Now you have to use that. And I was like, seriously, let me just use one tool, get really good at this, and it integrates with everything. So that's why I love Notion, but like maybe you're using Asana or you're using Monday or you're using at this point you can probably just use Claude to do everything. But the structure and the architecture is still going to be important. So this is what I specifically want to cover, and that's why we're doing a whiteboard. So we have databases for attract, convert, deliver. And what we're going to put into those databases, we're going to cover in just a second. But there are two more databases that I think we need to cover, which is like a player database. So I'm thinking everything in terms of like games and gamification. So that's why I'm calling them player. If you want to call them members or users or whatever, like, don't get stuck up in the name. It's more about the framework. And then like we have communities. So this is like the location on like where things are happening. So this is the where. Where can be your community, it can be YouTube, it can be Instagram, it can be like another community. But we need to know where things are happening. We want to have the player and a record on like who is doing the things. And then we have attract, convert, deliver as a way on like, okay, what's happening in marketing, what's happening in sales, and what is happening in the operations. So from here on, it's really important to understand what is happening across these three things. So I think in terms of attract, it is mostly content, right? Um, we have different content pieces and like whether this is a post or a video, it doesn't really matter. It's content. In convert, we have different activities. And I'm gonna break this down um, in a little bit. And in deliver, we usually have projects. Or at least that's how I like to think of it. So maybe this will help you with like the names of everything. So we can now break down content because it's not just a content. Content can be a post. It can be a video. It can even be a live. So when we go live in our own communities or we are joining a live in another community, that is content. We are now attracting people, or like a lot of people are attracted to that. So from here, we want to understand who is writing the post, who is making the video, who is creating the live, and where is this happening. And this is why we have these databases. Um, because we want to like have a proper understanding. And again, like you can just ask AI at this point to build this for you. But personally, this is how I'm thinking about it. And in terms of activities, we usually have like comments. we have chats, and we have calls. So these are the activities that we are doing for sales, or for conversion. And then in projects, let me think about projects. We have service. So this is usually the easiest thing to sell. Just like some side information here. We have coaching. So this is like where we actually help people like get to the point where we are, while service is helping someone who's ahead of us. So that's why starting with service is easier, because like we need to like go up first. Because like when we're starting, there is like no one at our level is able to afford our services. So we need to go up. And then the last stage would be education. And this is the most scalable, but it is also the hardest to sell. So that's why courses tend to die out. And I think the future of education is like much more software. So we'll need to like make this more fun and engaging, which is something that I love to do. And that's why Deliver is personally my favorite. But I also acknowledge that we need to do Convert as well as Attract. So each of those um, uh, needs to connect to players as well as the community, because we want to understand um, what is happening in those databases. And now we already have like a really solid information base, and things are already organized in their specific groups. And from here on, something that I want to end with is probably the most important aspect, which is transcriptions. So we want to gather a lot of data, right? And we have transcriptions, which is, in my opinion, the easiest way to gather data. So let's say you are on a live. This should be transcribed because you're creating a video. This should be transcribed because it is information that you get to use over and over again. And if you also are tracking the performance of the content, then you know how to weigh the transcriptions. So transcription is just like a way to like truly understand the information inside of these. And that's why personally I love Notion, because in there, each of these databases has pages. So a post is a separate page that can be opened, and in that page we can put things like a description. Same thing with a call. We hop on a call with someone and we click on a button, and then it transcribes that call. And when we have like a coaching call or a service call where we want to figure out how to help someone, this should be transcribed, because we want to remember what we agreed upon, like what should get done. And then we can like break this down into like smaller tasks and projects. But generally, I think the transcription is the thing that is tying all of these things together. And that's how I'm thinking about the community OS, where we have the databases of Attract, Convert, Deliver, which are just things that we need to all be doing. But we want to properly understand and organize that across different players and communities. If you're just getting started and you're running like one community, then you probably don't need this. But as soon as like your community starts growing, or you start helping multiple people with their communities, then like we need to understand who is doing what, where. And that's why I'm thinking of this framework with Attract, Convert, Deliver, players, communities. And in there, we want to organize everything that is happening and gather as much data as possible, because then we can do something along the lines of asking AI, hey, can you analyze my last 30 content pieces and tell me which of those were performing the best and how to create like a future roadmap for a specific launch that I want to do. And then AI does this. Or at least you needed to have it done it once, and then you can copy this framework. And that's why I love having worked with synthesizer scaling, because like I haven't just done it once, but I've done it like 60 plus times at this point, and I really understand how this is done, and then it can be like replicated. And that's why scaling is so powerful, because all of this information is gathered. And that is also the strategy of acquisition.com, because like they are doing all of these live events because they mostly want to gather the data from the people, from the businesses. Because when they are helping a plumber with their marketing, they can use the same strategy and help a dentist, because like it's similar enough. And by having all of this data on like how they are all doing attract, convert, deliver, and like who is doing that, where, then we have a really solid organization. And then we can just let the AI do this thing and analyze the data. And with data, we are able to make much better decisions, which allows us to grow and ultimately scale in a way that wasn't done before. And that is the power of AI. So I hope you found this productive. You can find me at Wizard at School. Would love to connect, always happy to network. And until then, enjoy the journey and peace.